Let's start off with an example of Steven Crowder making this argument. In a video where he thinks he's offering a brilliant rebuttal to Vox on healthcare, he argues the following.
And by the way, the only reason that other countries can price fix on drugs is because of places that don't, allowing for the innovation, the creation of new drugs. Let's say the government said, hey, listen, okay, all right. The price that people are going to pay for your new cancer treatment, it's going to be $100. That's it. You can't charge more. But it costs billions of dollars to create. Don't care. That's the cost. That's the offer you can't refuse. Guess what? The companies that create research, the companies that innovate, they're going to create 0 new cancer treatments. There's no incentive to go in. So we burden the cost, the private sector burdens the cost, and then these other countries piggyback off of them and provide it at a subsidized rate. That doesn't mean that somewhere down the line, somebody didn't invest in creating new, better healthcare. You need that to keep this afloat, just like you need the United States military to keep Canada from being invaded from, I don't know, anyone. Next clip.
Crowder frames it as if companies are producing and selling drugs at a financial loss to countries with price regulation strategies. And this is complete nonsense. Companies are still making a profit when they sell to these countries. They're simply profiting less than they do in the United States, where they can jack the price up and charge obscene amounts. Crowder's argument makes no theoretical sense. If these companies weren't making profits, or were even selling at a loss in these countries, why would they continue to produce these drugs and sell them to these countries? Purely out of the generosity of their hearts? Is this just corporate philanthropy on steroids? No, obviously they're selling to these countries to make money. So when Crowder argues that price regulation removes the incentive to produce new treatments and medications, he is simply mistaken. He says countries that regulate prices provide these treatments and medications at a subsidized rate. Yeah, more like at a reasonable rate. As is so often the case, right-wingers have it completely backwards on this issue. The United States is actually the outlier here, not these other countries. It is these other countries that have a sane pricing policy, and the policy in the United States is the ridiculous one. As we read on drugwatch.org, quote, an IHS market report revealed drugs sold in the United States cost an average of 56% less in other high-income countries. Prices range from being 1/3 of the price in France to being just under 2/3 of the price in Japan, end quote. And here we see the percentage saved on prescription drugs, relative to that spent in the United States, in a variety of countries which have more progressive healthcare systems. As we can see, the United States outspends these countries by a long shot. Why is this the case? Largely because pharmaceutical companies can get away with it in this country because our laws allow for it. And the thing about healthcare is that people don't have a choice. If a company tries to charge $10,000 for a TV, or that fancy new dildo you've been looking at for a while, you can just be like, fuck you, I'm not gonna pay that much. I don't need your stupid TV anyway. And you can just go home and that's the end of it. But if they charge $10,000 for a month's supply of the medication that you need to prevent you from dying or suffering, you don't have a choice in the matter. Your only choice is to either buy the medication or suffer and die. Hey, that's freedom, baby. I can practically feel the liberty coursing through my diseased veins. This is why it's so stupid when right-wingers talk about healthcare as if it's just another shiny commodity. Furniture, television, healthcare, it's all the same stuff. No, it's not the same stuff, and the same economic rules do not apply. The technical way to phrase this in economic terms is to say that healthcare demand is inelastic. That is to say, demand stays the same regardless of whether the price increases or decreases. This is why it makes both economic and moral sense to implement price regulation strategies. If you don't do this, the profit-driven companies will jack up the prices because they can do this, and people will have to keep paying for these medications and treatments. The pharmaceutical industry is unique in another sense. As Anna Zaret and Grace Lee describe on the Source blog, quote, "It is extremely expensive to develop new drugs. The estimated cost to get one drug to market successfully is now more than $2.8 billion. These high fixed costs create barriers to entry, making it challenging and time-consuming for competitors to enter the market. Because of these barriers to entry, existing pharmaceutical companies have the ability to set and maintain high prices for their products, because it will take time for another competitor to enter the market, compete, and drive down prices." End quote. Add to that patent guarantees which ensure that only one company can sell a drug for up to 20 years, and what you have is inelastic demand for essential drugs paired with either a very small number of sellers or even just a single seller. This is a recipe for very high prices if you don't step in and regulate this space. The healthcare industry is a very unique one, and that's why we need to take the unique approach of regulating the prices. Obviously, you don't want to make the prices so low that the companies aren't getting a return on their investment, but everybody knows this, especially the healthcare regulators who specialize in this area, as if they need somebody like Steven Crowder to point this out to them. Hey, make sure you don't bankrupt these companies by charging too much. Dude, great point. We totally would not have taken into consideration the most basic functional requirements of a business if you didn't just point this out to us right now. No, they'd be like, get this idiot out of here. We're trying to talk serious policy right now. What they do in these countries is strike a reasonable balance between allowing the companies to profit without charging obscene amounts. As Kayani et al. Describe, price regulation strategies include, quote, direct control of prices, reference pricing and generic substitution, and profit control, end quote. So the framing that right-wingers put on this issue is all wrong. They portray it as if the prices charged in the United States are the normal prices, or the sensible prices, and any prices lower than this are the subsidized prices. In reality, what we have are exorbitant prices in the US and reasonable prices in the other countries. I also just don't understand the grammar of describing this as a subsidy. A subsidy is basically financial aid of one sort or another. We're going to give you taxpayer dollars to conduct your research. You're going to pay less in taxes because your industry is valuable. Those are subsidies, and that is not what's going on here. What's going on is these companies are trying to sell drugs in these countries, and these countries are simply saying, here are the prerequisites to selling in our country. It's much more like a pre-sale negotiation than it is a subsidy. So unless I'm missing something here, I think conservatives are completely misusing this word. This strikes me as nothing more than a crude, bungled attempt at using this term for propaganda purposes. I'm on Patreon. There's a link in the description if you'd like to support my content. I would really appreciate it. There's also social media links in there if you want to follow me there. I'm trying to build up some of those followings. I would really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe for more videos if you haven't already. Hit the bell, hit the like button, post a fucking comments. All that fun stuff that's standard on YouTube. You know the fucking drill. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this.